Welcome, drug runners, long lost lovers, and opium monsters, to episode 386 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 13th of January, 2021. We got it right a second time in a row. Uh, Featuring Nightmare of Eden, written by Bob Baker and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Lala Ward as Romana, and David Brierly as the voice of K9. I am Bill Sylvia, the man in black, on this unimpeachable day. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch,
I have had a relaxing day.
Mad Matt Winchell,
Liquor's quicker.
and Thomas Fireheart.
Ah, yes, drug running, the oldest of Doctor Who cliches.
All right, so how's everybody's week been?
Not too bad.
My last week of winter break.
Mostly uneventful, although I have found out something that I might be a bit disappointed on, but I'll find out eventually. Probably in about a week's time. I found out that the game I'm currently solo playing might not actually have an ending.
Oh, well, that'll be interesting. You'll be playing it forever.
No, I'm playing Lego The Hobbit. Apparently, it just suddenly ends at the end of where the second movie stops.
Oh,
Yeah. Supposedly that's where it ends. We'll see when I get there.
it doesn't say something like "Congratulations on completing a great game"?
Nope. It just takes you back to the open world and goes, "Good luck, Chuckles." Waiting for that third sequel that started coming. Ah!
Yeah, I think that might have been the point that Lego games started sucking.
Also,
Come to
that
find
just
out
tells
now.
me, again, it's like this is why you wait until like a while after the movies have been out and then do it.
Sorry, I have to add something to Geek Talk.
Oh, okay.
My brain just suddenly kicked my ass.
Your synapses suddenly fired off, eh?
Yeah. I'm like, I know I did something else this week. What the hell did I do?
Is my thing still first, or do I need to download a new
No,
version?
you'll be fine. I'm
Okay.
fine after you.
Ah.
All right. Just something I finished, and I should report on it.
Yeah, basically, most of what I did was basically just like, I mean, the other day I finally started playing Crash 4, and basically it's just been that, playing Animal Crossing and watching a lot of Naruto Shippuden. I think I've gotten through like 20 or 30 episodes since I talked about it last week.
I've just been watching and paying attention a lot to the Phasmophobia streamers that do stuff. Because a lot of them are funny as hell. And this week has been interesting because all of them play on the beta version of the game. And it's just been patch after patch after patch after patch all week. And it's not like it's fixing shit. He keeps adding new shit. It's like, well, I'm going to have the ghosts do this. Now I'm giving them this. And now they can do this.
Oh, actually, I just remembered I fell into a particular weird hole after all of the shenanigans of last week. I started watching a few VTubers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've focused on two of them in particular.
That is a dark hole.
I've managed to float the surface, and I'm focused on only two of them.
So doesn't a VTuber basically mean a YouTuber that doesn't use their face?
Yeah, they're using a virtual avatar. They use like facial capture and stuff. I've managed to focus on two of them.
Which two?
Corone, who is a dog girl. There's nothing funnier, more amusing in the world than listening to a Japanese girl squeal like a schoolgirl after getting the chainsaw on Doom. And then going on a rampage.
All right, and which one's the other one?
I actually started watching the Safer Work stuff from Project Melody.
Oh. Wow, you are falling down the hole.
I watched her save her work stuff. I watched her do reactions to videos sent to her by donators.
I have only watched one VTuber video. And that was by a VTuber called Neanners, and she was playing Phasmophobia. I watched it deliberately to watch her die. And I was just like, okay, I'm happy now.
Yeah, Corone, I've seen some of her Doom stuff. I saw her play Altered Beast. Oh gosh, her poor Sega did not want to behave itself. She had to pull the cartridge out and redo it like 3 times. She literally started talking to it while blowing into the cartridge, telling it to please behave, and then we can finish.
Technically, one of the Twitch streamers I use also uses a video skin some of the time, but the video skin is a potato.
Oh yes, that one.
Yes, that's Psychohypnotic. Yeah, he's great because he also has a voice modulator, so he does the demonic voice, so you get Demon Potato. He is from Switzerland, so he also has this very thick Swiss accent.
Yeah, this is this very outrageous European accent.
Yes, but he's a lot of fun. But no, like I said, the reason I watched this VTuber is they were not taking that seriously. They were just wandering around making jokes and stuff. And then the ghosts started hunting.
And then the screams start coming?
Exactly.
Yeah. Corone is a weird one. I looked at her going, okay, you're going to actually play Doom? Are you seriously going to try and play this? She had a few moments of freak out, and then when she got her first shotgun, she's just like, shotgun! And just starts going crazy. I'm like, okay, I can like this.
It was funny. Yesterday when the latest Phasmo patch went out, the thing that they changed was that the ghost could hear you during a hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way he has it set it up is he has all these commands you can do in his Twitch channel that make sounds on the channel. I think that actually carried through into the game.
So Naxa came over the mic.
Yes, because every time somebody would do one of these, his eyes would get huge. He's just like, no, knock it off. And you would hear step, step, step,
thump,
step.
Thump, 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 thump. Ah!
He's great because every time he gets killed, I make mashed potato references.
Mashed potato.
Or, hi, welcome to the stream. We're making fries here
on... Oh yeah, also Corone did a all in English Super Mario Brothers run.
Yeah.
This Friday, I'm going to be watching movies, and Aaron is taking a day off of work. And we're going to order from Outback Steakhouse and get that DoorDash to us.
Nice.
It's for a reason I'll talk about in a little bit. So why don't we get to it, shall we?
Yep.
On tonight's show, we have birthdays, and I actually had to stretch to find a few. We've got 2 or 3 news articles. We've got 4 pieces of Geek Talk. And then our episode summary, which will be provided by Bill. I say changing the color appropriately. Our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get into birthdays, shall we? The first birthday was on January 8th, and is, of course, the posthumous birthday of William Hartnell, who played the Doctor from 1963 to 66. The original Doctor, you might say. He would have been 113, but he died in 1975 at 67. Next, we have a special birthday. This will be the only time he ever shows up on our birthday list.
Quite possibly.
And that is Louis Feander, who played Trist In this week's review, Nightmare of Eden, back in 1979, he would have been 83, but he died in 26 at the age of 79. And finally, tonight, is the birthday of myself, Randy Ronson McCulloch, who's turning 45 in about 10 minutes ago. I forgot we got a late start. And yes, that is why Aaron's taking Friday off, is we are going to celebrate my birthday on Friday. And that's normally we would go to Longhorn Steakhouse and get food, but they don't do delivery. They only do pickup. So we're going to be lazy and order from Outback. That's not going to stop me from getting a freaking huge steak, devouring it, going to my special steak place.
I'm ordering a monstrosity known as a blooming onion.
Oh yeah, we're ordering that too. But I'm also going to order the frickin' porterhouse, so that'll go to my happy steak spot. Anyway, we got no lost stories this week. Good, because one doesn't want to spend their birthday talking about death.
As much as they can.
Yep. So that'll take us to our first news story. And that, as we promised last week, is the actual viewing figures for Revolution of the Daleks. Its final official rating from the Barb is 6.25 million viewers.
Oh, so that's up, I think?
That's up by 2 million?
That takes into
Are you
account...
comparing it to New Year's or to the regular season?
Or compared it
I guess
to the
regular, even
overnight.
though that's probably
Oh,
not
you meant
fair,
compared
but
to the overnight. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't going down from the overnight, but yeah.
Yeah.
That takes into account everybody who watched it within the last week.
Yeah.
This confirms Doctor Who as the top-rated BBC One program for New Year's Day, beating out EastEnders, which only had 4.36 million.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And Mrs. Brown's Boys with 4.87 million. That is actually unusual because of during the last season, both tended to frequently beat out Doctor Who by the official viewing.
Yes, EastEnders in particular usually is a monster of defeat of late.
Overall, Doctor Who was the second for the day, with Coronation Street claiming the top spot with 6.39 billion.
Is this the version that includes streaming numbers or no?
Don't know if it...
Define streaming numbers.
iPlayer.
Yes, it does include iPlayer.
Okay.
Yeah, they never include overseas or anything. So
yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure where you were going for it. It does include iPlayer. It does not include overseas. But I am not surprised Coronation Street took the top. Coronation Street is a soap opera monster that has been going since, I think, the late 60s, early 70s, and doesn't show any sign of stopping.
It's in the same practically area as EastEnders. Those are technically soap opera-ish dramas, things that have just been going on and on and on.
Fuck me. This has been going since before Doctor Who. It's been going since 1960, yes.
Yeah, Coronation Street's a monster.
God damn.
But still, that's only 0.14 million between the two. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Doctor Who is likely to finish the week as the 8th most watched program. The same position held by New Year 2020 program Spyfall. So this was before the 2020 drop, but not before the 2017 drop.
Yeah.
The most watched program for the weekend ending 3rd January was Happy New Year Live with 9.92 million watching.
Of course.
Also not surprising.
Everyone's turning into that. That's the big New Year thing.
Yep. And if this had been an America thing, it would probably have been drowned out by people watching either the stuff at the Capitol on January 6th. Because that's major news and it gets huge attendance no matter if it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's always big events like that will tend to drop out. Will tend to drown out dramas.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's
look at what JFK's assassination did to the original Doctor Who.
exactly. It actually,
Mm.
yeah, interrupted it and that wasn't even that was the day after, but it was still,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
ongoing stuff. The latest news in the JFK assassination.
Mm.
Okay, so we move from Revolution of the Daleks to Series 13 filming, and a very familiar villain was spotted filming at Nap Beach in Barry, Wales, and that is they actually saw a weeping angel.
They
Well, I
did
hope they
tease
didn't
them
look
in that
away.
prison.
We just, of course, saw a cameo
Mm-hmm.
of one in Revolution, but
We
Mm.
saw a lot of cameos, and I hope they don't all come back because that would be overkill.
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm a little concerned about this. The Weeping Angels were not treated with respect by Moffat, who created
Yep.
them.
Don't
Yeah,
let Moffat
they've been
write the
treated like
episode.
quite hot garbage.
I think he's the
Yeah.
only one who's written them as something other than like a cliffhanger. So this will be interesting to see somebody new write them.
Yes.
Mm.
Now, if we look at the final list and it says written by Stephen Moffat, maybe it's not going to be a good episode.
Well,
Yeah.
then we once again have to start taking a collection to the Fly Me to England.
Well, I
so
mean,
kick Stephen Moffat in the dick.
I guess even if it was, at least he's not running the show, so he'd actually have time
Have
to
somebody
make
else
it
editing him?
watchable. Yeah, because like as we pointed out before, like if he's under someone else and has more time to just focus on what he's doing for an episode, he's usually better.
Yeah, because he
Whereas
can go
if
back
he's
and go, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
yeah, whereas if he's showrunner, he's got to do everything else on top of his own stuff. So.
In related news, appearing with the Weeping Angels, having seen, is British actress Annabel Sholey, who is known from such shows as The Split and The Salisbury Poisonings. She was filmed. She was spotted with the angel in a photo taken by a Barry resident named Oliver Williams, and of course immediately posted this on social media. We can see the Weeping Angel in the background. And we can see her there. And we can see another picture with Jodie Whittaker there. It looks like Sholey may be playing a victim of the angel.
Quite possibly. As it seems to have a hand on her shoulder.
And then apparently they both showed up in the London to appear with the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child cast.
Okay.
Just as a publicity photo. Probably during a rehearsal, just popped in to say hi. When she's filming, she does tend to make those moments to make like little social media pops. Because I remember when they were filming the episode at that one cathedral, she was constantly taking pictures with fans and stuff when she wasn't filming. So yeah, it looks like she's doing the same thing. It gets the PR up. All right.
Again, I've said before, she's not the worst person to play the Doctor, but man, her scripts need some work.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault.
No, it's not her fault. She's a great actress.
Mm-hmm. And she's a very friendly person, all considering, at least publicly so far.
I would love to see her under the control of somebody other than Chibnall.
Mm-hmm.
But I said most of that same thing about Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi with Moffat. So
yeah, they're If nothing else, we're still consistent.
Mm.
Although we hate Moffat and we hate Chibnall for different reasons.
Oh yeah.
They both have their flaws. It's just both of those flaws tend to piss us the fuck off. Anyway, that takes us down to our Big Finish news. There's only one new release from Big Finish this week, and that's the monthly Torchwood, which is Coffee with Gareth David Lloyd, who of course plays Ianto Jones.
Mm-hmm. This is like his second or third solo story, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I replied to a post about this on Facebook. I got too used to like the Jessica Jones, Luke Cage meaning of coffee, and I saw that title and I was like, that sounds like the porn parody, and then I was like, wait a second, that's yes,
It's
Yes, the rest of
Yanto.
us-
That
the
still
rest-
doesn't disinclude.
Yeah,
true.
if Captain Jack's there, that might
Oh,
have that.
oh yeah, if Captain Jack is still somewhere in the neighborhood, that still might go that direction. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
In related news, the free weekly audios are back, but this week is a Blake 7, so
So no mention here other than, hey, Blake 7 if you want it for free.
yeah, I just wanted to mention the fact that they are starting them up again.
Mm-hmm.
So that is all the news we have. Let's move it down to Geek Talk.
So I had the first for that.
First one, InuYasha. The
So, yeah,
entire run plus movies, apparently. Somebody's been
Yes.
busy.
So over roughly the past 6 weeks, I've been binging the original series of InuYasha as well as the movies in the appropriate places. The show is on Hulu, at least the dub is. The sub is on both, and the movies are on Netflix. And for some background, when the InuYasha anime started, a third of the manga was already out. Another third of the manga came out during the run of the show, and the final third of the manga came out after the show was canceled before they did the seventh season, which I'm going to start watching after today.
The final cut.
Right. So that is I say that because it gives a good indication of how the quality of the anime worked. For the first half of its run, it's very tight. Um, it's very story driven. Not a lot of padding. Once it got halfway through its run, you started to see excessive amounts of recap, one-off episodes that are filler that feel like they're wasting your time. Uh, Also, the story itself being padded, which partially seems to have to do with the manga studio encouraging the creator Rumiko Takahashi to stretch it out. Um, Season 4, you start to see it, but it didn't really start to have a lot of filler and the excessive recaps and things like that until season 5. Overall, I would say I've definitely been enjoying the ride. There are some weird things about it. For example, in the Kikyo centered episodes, they act strongly like InuYasha and Kagome are an established couple in a relationship. Whereas in all of the episodes, they're doing that whole like, will they, won't they start, are they going to become in a relationship thing? Part of that can be played off by the fact that Kagome is 15 and InuYasha is meant to have the mentality of a 15-year-old, so they're not going to be adults in a mature relationship no matter what happens. But part of it is just, it needing to progress. Of course, the fact that it's an anime with filler that stretches out a story that takes place over a year into 6 seasons does not help that because it feels like they're treading water for a lot longer than they actually are in universe. There's also the fact that as I was watching a filler episode, they Kikyo pins Inuyasha to a tree, and I said something out loud to myself along the lines of, "Yeah, that's about right for Inuyasha bondage fantasy." because that's in many ways what the show is as a PG version. At which point InuYasha shouted something about Kikyo never finishing him off, which in that context definitely I feel like it was on purpose. I feel like they knew what they were doing.
Never finishing.
On to the movies. I will say I don't want to spend too much time on the movies, but I will say I think they did them better than Dragon Ball Z. Most Dragon Ball Z movies are essentially taking the spirit of a long arc and trying to capture it in a movie that feels repetitive in the age of streaming, even though it felt less repetitive in the age of reruns and Toonami. InuYasha gets around that by having the movies actually be original stories. Movie 2 is a little repetitive of what came before it. Ironically, it's the only movie to be referenced in a filler episode down the line. But especially movies 1, 3, and 4. 4 is kind of the capstone at the end of season 6. But they're all original stories. I don't feel like they were retreads of anything. It would be nice if they fit better in with the continuity of the show, but that's what anime movies are always like.
Usually.
The one weird thing about a movie is that for some reason in movie 3, they make a big point of breaking the beads that are used to enchant InuYasha and keep him under Kagome's control, which is pointless because immediately in the next episode of the anime, they're working just as they always have. So I don't know why they made that decision with the movie. Maybe they had some miscommunication. I don't know.
I think so. I think that must have been a
Most
mistake
likely.
because those beads don't break over the course of the manga.
Right. Overall, it's weird in that at the end of season 6, it feels like you're going into the final season, like things are about to end. But like I mentioned, the manga ran for another 4 years after this. So I think they made the right call in canceling the anime for a few years because it really felt like it was plotting. I was getting frustrated at times. I put in our group chat the fact that each episode would have 15 minutes of recap and just like repeating things to
That's
drag
like
out
half the
time.
episode.
And I would have rather watched the Goku Frieza fight with the Bulma and the Ginyu frog interjected in there than just watch half the episode be recap and repeating scenes. But by my understanding, season 7 has no filler, which makes sense because it's 4 years of manga in one season of anime. So I'm really looking forward to that, and then rewatching Yashahime.
I can tell you this. Honestly, anime should only be able to have one recap episode every 13 episodes.
Well, I don't mean like recap episodes. I mean like
yes, but if they're taking that much time to recap, then they're basically taking half a recap episode to recap.
So what I mean,
and doing it every 2 to 3 episodes.
Basically, the first 5 minutes of every episode is recap. And then after every commercial break, they recapped what happened for a full minute or so before that commercial break.
Yeah, no. At that point, they're padding.
They're extremely padding, yeah.
I will make the comment on InuYasha and Kagame's relationship. This is a Rumiko Takahashi anime manga, so basically it's Ranma Nakane all over again, with the overly coarse macho character who pisses off the female.
It's the main reason why I criticized it is because of that juxtaposition in that and this might be something to do with how the how the anime was rewritten or how it was localized or something along those lines. But in the Kikyo episodes, they talk a lot about as if InuYasha were cheating on Kagome, this and that. But in they never actually start or establish a relationship, and they keep saying that there's no relationship. So it just seems really weird.
They're in that denial phase that Takahashi likes.
Yeah, Takahashi does like the the couple that's obviously a couple, even though they're kind of in denial
Mhm.
about it.
Right. Like
Yeah.
it's really weird that you can be considered cheating on somebody who says that you're not in a relationship with each other.
I don't know. Happen to Ranma all the damn time.
Like I said, Takahashi. Don't know why she writes them that way, but she does.
I have theories, but I'm not going to share them here. Well, actually, I will. I think it might be issues. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that she might have issues?
Yeah, that's the way she works out her issues from maybe her teenage years.
Maybe.
Either that, or she just like sort of took people she knew who were like that.
But also,
sort of
like I
goes
said,
on
it,
from that.
it would be a lot worse if the characters were 20 or 25.
And
With them
then
being
responded
15,
like this,
that's a
yeah.
little more forgivable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it would definitely be
Ranma and
unforgivable
Akane
at that
were
point.
only 16, so yeah, it's that
Mhm.
not mature relationship.
Right.
Give me a couple seconds here to close a couple windows that are starting to eat my resources. Stupid cult box. Anyway. All right, so we're moving to that, and the thing that I remember to put down is I finished watching Star Trek Discovery Season 3 this week. Now, as you know, I've been watching Discovery since it started. This is only talking about Season 3, which so far I think is the best season that we've had. What are you, and why are you popping up on my screen? Anyway. So, Star Trek Discovery, the end of Season 2, took us 900 years into the future, further than we've ever had in a Star Trek series, and actually handled it very well. I was originally leery about this because it was following Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda playbook, but it seemed he did well. It seemed to do well. It felt more like Star Trek than anything I've seen in recent times. I like Star Trek Picard, but it didn't feel like Star Trek. It felt more like Firefly or something of that lines. This felt like Star Trek. You were dealing with people on a Federation ship trying to save people. And it reminded you that's what Star Trek was about. And it still had the, overarching storyline of trying to find out what happened 150 years ago that destroyed every ship that had dilithium in it and basically reduced the Federation to a tiny little fraction of itself and plunged the rest of the galaxy into chaos. But it comes out very well. I enjoyed this very much almost every episode. Some episodes had me in tears, and even though they took 2 episodes out of 13 to basically use as a backdoor pilot for their upcoming Section 31 series, I don't mind it. Hell, using Star Trek as a backdoor pilot for something else goes back to the original series. Even though that show failed. Still, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the feel of this series. I enjoyed the character interactions, the way things changed, and it finally feels like they're found their footing on becoming a proper Star Trek series. So I'm enjoying Discovery more than I have previously. If you at all like Star Trek, you have to grit your teeth through the first season, and it's hard because there's so much not to like in the first season. But then they start gaining traction in season 2, and this season's a joy. I'll remind all Star Trek fans out there, season 1 and season 2s of Next Gen and DS9 weren't that pretty either, folks. And less said about Voyager, the better. And let's not talk about the 3rd season of Enterprise. Oh, God, let's not. but it's finally finding its own sense of identity as well as its Star Trek identity. And it's starting to feel like a show that I can be proud to call part of the Star Trek franchise. So yes, it's worth my subscription to CBS All Access to watch this show.
I hear they're switching what that's going to be now.
Oh?
Yeah, CBS is going to be merging to something else, not just All Access.
Well, they've recently remerged with Viacom. Only this time CBS is the dominant partner, whereas previously Viacom was.
Well, no, I mean like someone's getting arrested or something.
Speeder.
So there's switches.
Okay, you can. Are they just literally in front of my house? I say that and all of a sudden it stops. What the heck? But
they've come for your parents, Matt. Hide the drugs.
Actually, there is a car pulled out in front of my house. Okay, yeah, it must have been a speeder or something. Anyway, I'll let you know if there's an all-out shootout. But I hear that CBS All Access is going to be merging to another CBS streaming platform. But that's all I know. I can't remember what's going on there.
I wonder if it's going to be merging with Epix or something, which is Viacom's streaming platform.
I don't know. I can't remember. I just know it's merging with something else. I just can't remember what it is offhand.
Well, either way, it'll have my subscription for Star Trek, if nothing else. Literally at this point, I think my tier for what they're pulling out for Star Trek right now is Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks. And Discovery just beat out Picard with this season.
So it definitely sounds like it would be worth it for me to sub at some point and watch in order to watch all of those shows.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Lower Decks is one of those things that I find funny at times. The later episodes better than the earlier ones, but then my brain reminds me, oh my god, this is technically canon.
Yeah, the fact that that thing is canon from what little I've seen, I'm just like, oh dear.
Yeah.
It occurs to me I have a bad habit of starting Star Trek shows and never finishing them. I never finished Enterprise. I never finished Next Generation.
How far did you get in Enterprise?
I think I watched the first season and then paused and then never unpaused.
Yeah, the thing about Enterprise is it was kind of had a mediocre first two seasons and then an abysmal third for a decent fourth, and it got canceled at that point. Both Next Gen and DS9 had mediocre first two seasons. Next Gen actually had an abysmal second season. And then from third on, they were freaking gold with the occasional mediocre episode. DS9 in particular, with its overarching storyline, got particularly like
DS9. I think is the one Star Trek show that I never hear anyone say anything negative about.
There were a few things I didn't like about DS9. They got an obsession with this holographic lounge singer in the last couple of seasons. That they would do a special about that character or the characters interacting with that, and I'm just like, get on with it, because I didn't give a shit, but because I wanted to hear about the war. But Voyager had a lot of ups and downs, but Voyager at its best was good, not great, and Voyager at its worst was complete garbage. Nobody will ever convince me that Threshold is anything but total and utter garbage. I would argue it's the worst episode of any Star Trek, and that includes Spock's brain. Although there's a couple of episodes in Discovery season 1 that comes close, but mostly because of looking what they did to the Klingons and going, "What were you thinking?" But like
that seems to just be the trend with the existence of Klingons.
however, Discovery far makes up for it in this season because you get to see the Orions and the Andorians and a lot of the other races, and they're all perfect. So it's like they just found themselves this season, and I love them for it.
Still wonder why they messed up the Klingons so bad, but whatever.
Yeah, well, I think at that point they weren't sure if they were supposed to be doing TV Star Trek or Abrams Star Trek, so they just kind of split the difference, which was a mistake. And they kind of realized that and tried to back off it as much as they could. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Discovery. Move on.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be you.
Next item is Promising Young Woman.
Yep. I was interested in seeing this movie just by the trailer when it originally was supposed to come out, which I think it was supposed to come out in like March or April, maybe like midway through the year or something last year, and then whoops, COVID happened, so it didn't, and it only just got released like last week in Australia, because we got a cinema release due to COVID not being as much of a problem here. There have been outbreaks again in other states, but that were worse than what my state's currently dealing with. So I was like, I've been going to the movies less lately, regardless, but it was like, oh, I want to actually give this a shot. For the most part, it's actually, most of it is good. I can see why people have problem with the ending. Personally, it didn't bother me as much, but it could be a thing where it'll be like it'll have you and then the ending happens and you'll either go with it or you'll be like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Um but yeah, like the whole like the basic premise is that um the main character goes out and pretends to be like blackout drunk so guys will take her home, and when it's pretty clear that they're going to try raping her, she like drops the act and like gives them a talking to, um and like essentially trying to scare them out of doing it. And you find out it's because a friend of hers was drunkenly raped at a frat party or something. And I don't think they actually say, but it's sort of implied essentially that she committed suicide a while after. Um and eventually the guy who did that comes back into comes back to his hometown essentially, and she finds out. So then it's sort of like from there as she's just made a list of the people that she knows didn't seem to give a shit or were involved or knew about it and did nothing, and it's like trying to get revenge on those people for the rest of the movie. um and yeah, like it's very interesting. A lot of it's very cathartic. I did not know Alfred Molina was in this movie, so it was interesting when he turned up for a bit. I think this is also, God, I don't know how much actual like movie acting Bo Burnham has done, but seeing him in this was interesting, and he's very good, and he has a lot of good chemistry with the main actress.
Name sounds familiar.
He started as a musical comedian on YouTube, and then he's had Netflix specials, I think, since.
Hmm.
Because he just like got bigger and bigger. Um. it might have even been that he's had like Comedy Central specials, I guess. But I think he's had at least a Netflix special. Because he just like his star has kind of risen. He's not, he's not like A-list or anything, but he's still like fairly famous for someone who started on YouTube. Yeah, like I would say check this out. Granted, given like the whole, as I said, like part of the impetus of the backstory of this movie is that someone was like drunkenly raped at a frat party, which you never see. They never like show that happen. Um there is a bit where like kind of, but you don't see anything. But either way, if that is like a off-putting for you, either because of like PTSD, whatever, or that's just a trigger for you, stay away from it probably, or at least read up on exactly what happens, and then if it seems like, well, that seems like something I can manage, watch it, but otherwise, yeah. I would say it's just worth checking out.
I just read the ending of this movie and it depresses me, so no.
Yeah. Also, this was the
it's the kind of
second or third movie. I think this is this.
I will say this much: it's the kind of movie where nobody wins.
I will say this also, like the funny thing I realized was that this is like the second or third movie I've seen in like half a decade's worth of time, maybe a bit longer, that uses the song Angel of the Morning in it at some point, because there's Deadpool that Deadpool uses it. God, I forget what the other one. I don't think Guardians used it, did they?
I'm pretty sure that, I thought it was Guardians, but yeah, definitely Deadpool.
Deadpool's opening montage in the first one. Oh, not montage, but opening had it.
I know it was used by something in the 80s.
Well, yeah, that would make sense. I know. Oh God, I feel
like
we're
talking about stuff recently.
Yeah, it's either just Deadpool in this, but I think there's been something in between where I was like, this movie and Deadpool used it in a way that made sense. Whatever the other movie I can think of, it felt really out of place. And just like they used it because it was getting more attention again.
Maybe.
All
right. Good?
Yep.
All right. Stopping resetting. That was our short one so far. Speaking of probably another short one, I'm going to go over here and we're going to start talking about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's been at least 20 years since the last time I saw Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I used to watch it fairly regularly when I was visiting my aunts. My aunts, by the way, sadly both are passed away, but they're also the ones that got me involved in Star Trek and Star Wars from about age of 6. This is probably one of the first movies they showed me, amongst others. I rewatched it. I did a reaction to it. You can find it on my channel. Long story short, the jokes are actually still really good. Gene Wilder himself plays the character perfectly. By the way, you can also definitely tell watching this movie where you could see that he'd be a perfect fit for Young Frankenstein. There are definitely moments of Frankenstein in this particular movie, in some of the manic action he does. I was also having a look at this movie because I've been bringing movies over to my sisters when we visit on occasion for something to show my nephews so that they're not crawling all over me trying to get my Game Boy. Guess what the uncle has got planned for Christmas next year. So I was looking at this, and the only one scene I had an interpretation about was maybe the tunnel scene. Having seen it again and knowing the fact that these boys have now gone through the original Ghostbusters and Star Wars and a couple of other things, even Jason and Argonauts, and as far as I'm aware, they had no issues with the skeleton fight. I'm assuming they'll be just fine with the tunnel scene. They literally watched 3 guys get stabbed to death by skeletons and watched another guy jump off a cliff to avoid them.
Yeah, there's a
wonder.
difference between the violent creepy and that psychological creepy that's in that tunnel, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
they still should be able to withstand it.
Yeah, it should be just short enough that they'll be able to get through fine.
Mm. I still find it hilarious that dialogue, for the most part, is actually in the book. Like they upped the creep factor of it, but like they are supposed to be in a dark tunnel, and he's basically gleefully singing
Is
about how they
it
have no.
raining?
I,
Is
I,
it
I actually
snowing?
like
There's
the
no
version
earthly
is
way
better
of knowing.
is the fact that
Mm.
instead of doing it gleefully, he's doing it creepily.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
And I like that better. Because it's almost like he's in a trance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing about Gene Wilder's acting is the fact that he can do that kind of stuff and it
Mm.
comes off. He can portray almost any range from, manic to creepy to
Mm.
laid
I guess
back.
yeah.
Oh, and
I guess
his
it fits
his
because the
comebacks
movie
on
is
some of the
intentionally
comments
trying to
too.
hit.
What is this, a fun
Mm.
house? Why are you having fun yet?
I know. It's
It is.
it's if Doctor Who had ever truly been an American production,
Oh, he had to
then
have
it
been a
was
doctor. Yeah.
yes.
Because it's funny because that's what I was almost going to interject with is like in hindsight thinking back it's like yeah no I could have seen him working as an American actor being the Doctor. It's funny because he probably
Definitely.
even would have um he
He
probably if you go by this performance he probably would have been he would have been closer to like Tom Baker than any of the
yeah,
other
that's what
Doctors
I
I
was
think.
about to say too, is he would have been the Tom Baker of American doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And he probably would have enjoyed the heck out of it the entire time. Matter of fact, I have a 40th where I watched this as my DVD, and I got the 40th anniversary special edition, and there actually is a commentary on there from before he passed on. Apparently, literally only 2 days before he went in for this interview about Willy Wonka, he stated that apparently he got stopped at the supermarket by a mother who asked him, "Can I point you out to my children that you're Willy Wonka?" He's like, "Certainly. Just do it quietly." She literally just walk back to her cart and quietly points to him and goes, "That kid says Willy Wonka." And he just kind of smiles, waves, and continues shopping.
uh,
Oh, he was such a great person.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't think he's ever had a negative reaction to anybody who's ever seen this movie. He was always super happy that it's kept getting passed on, and in fact, most of the kids are still alive, and they're still surprised how long this movie has gone on and on and on.
it is
Well, again, the kids were probably also aware of the fact that it was made to promote something rather than just to be a
I'm not
movie in
sure
its
how much
own
the
right.
actors knew. I
Really?
know everybody above them, including the director and the producers, were
Mm,
well aware it was originally meant to help.
yeah.
Trying to think of the name. Quaker Oats. It was supposed to help Quaker Oats sell a Wonka bar.
Yeah.
Literally, the wrapping that you see in this movie was apparently supposed to be the wrapping that was going to be in stores, but they messed up the formula, and when they released the bar, they melted in stores, so it got completely canceled, pulled off the
So you say,
shelves, and it just fell apart.
I don't know
and
if they
Wow.
still are, but I know even like even after the turn of the century, they were still selling Willy Wonka based candy.
Yeah,
yeah, that was the Nestle Corporation that bought it.
Nestle
Yeah.
eventually started making
Yeah.
the Wonka-styled candies, and they're still going.
Actually, they've slowly been shutting down that product line.
Oh,
The Everlasting Gobstoppers are still around, but they no longer carry the Wonka label.
Ah,
So is that the same with Nerds then, or are they still Wonka labeled?
They're just Nestle's now.
shame. Because I also know they did a animated Wonka for advertisements once
that's
in a while
right.
too.
Nerds did have the Wonka label,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they've
and
since
they're a staple at this point.
yeah
They're
they
just their
were
self-made staple.
that was originally a Wonka product. There were several things that were Wonka products that either still exist under the Nestle label or have been just slowly
Phased out.
taken out of circulation.
Oh yeah, some of the I was mentioning also before. There's not even just Wonka. There's some good one-liners even from like Grandpa Joe during the course of the last half of the movie. At one point, Wonka mentions the different monsters who apparently ravaged and attacked Oompa Loompas in their homeland before he brought them over. And one of them is a voracious canid. And then when they're getting on the boat, Veruca's dad is like, ladies first, that means Veruca. And immediately Uncle Grandpa Joe is just like, if she's a lady, then I'm a voracious canid. Then they have the Suds machine vehicle where they get on for a while, and they're mentioning all the stuff that's going into it. And Grandpa Joe again, talking to Charlie. Charlie's like, "Do you think this thing will actually move?" And Grandpa Joe's just like, "There's enough gas in this. There's more gas in this thing than a politician. Let's go."
Just to let you know, the Wonka Candy Company did release such products as bottle caps,
Mm-hmm.
the Everlasting Gobstopper, of course, Fun Dip, Laffy Taffy, Nerds, as we mentioned, Pixie Sticks, Runts, Spree, Sweet Tarts.
Okay.
They also had Peel-A-Pop and Push-Ups ice cream. And mix-ups and randoms, which were assorted like, hard candy.
Yeah. I don't know how long they lasted, but I also know that they had a sour variation of Nerds called Geeks.
I don't recall that one.
Yeah, I don't think that came out here in America.
It might not have, but yeah, I remember.
Maybe it just never took off. I don't know.
Yeah, might have been, because I don't remember too many people I know having them. I tried one once and was just like, oh, fuck this.
There was a soft-chewy version of Nerds called Dweebs.
I remember those.
Yeah, those have been off the market for a while. Tartan Tinies was another thing they made that were good, and those are also gone.
I still enjoy the bottle caps.
But yeah, all of those were originally Wonka products, and now they're being made by Nestle Candy Shop.
They're just Nestle, and they're phasing out the Wonka. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because, of course, they had to keep paying for the Wonka license.
And now it's nowhere near as.
Now, if they came out with another Wonka remake next year, they'd probably be like, "Well, yeah, we should
Maybe we should re-up that. It might actually get some more sales again." Yeah.
Yeah, but after the failure.
After the failure of that remake, yeah.
And I know they re-upped it for that particular movie, and then tried to distribute based on that, and then that cost them some money, and then I think they upped for like.
That's probably what bit them. They decided to start phasing, yeah.
Because it also might have been because Nestle sold the brand. Nestle got sold to Ferrara Candy, and it might have been Ferrara's decision not to keep the label.
Probably.
Might have been their decision to cut all the costs. Yeah.
Of course, now that I think about it, I feel like if you were even gonna touch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory now, at this point, you might as well just do what Netflix did for a series of unfortunate events and just do a series on streaming, or like a mini series,
or do a glass ceiling movie. Although all the Charlie actors are too old.
That would be the no. I would do what I would do.
Glass elevator, not glass ceiling.
I would do a Netflix or Prime Video series, like I mentioned, so that the second season could be Glass Elevator.
Yeah. You don't just skip over the first one with completely new actors. You need to start over.
That could be wonderful or horrible, depending on casting.
Yeah, depending on casting and who's running it.
Gene Wilder was a wonderful pick for Willy Wonka in the 1970s, and he would be a wonderful pick today if he wasn't dead.
Yeah, not sure who you would get to replace him right now.
Yeah, I guess I guess when I said straight to glass elevator, I guess it would involve like assuming like, oh yeah, we're just gonna put Matt Smith in there and everyone's gonna act like he's still Gene Wilder.
No.
Actually, Matt Smith wouldn't be a bad choice if you were
No,
casting.
if you can get him to act the right way, yeah, Matt Smith might not actually be a bad pick for that.
David Tennant wouldn't be bad either.
David Tennant, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because both can
Honestly,
play.
a lot of the doctors that are still around.
Yeah, a lot of the
probably
doctors.
work.
Yeah,
I
because
mean, I would not put Peter Capaldi in Gene Wilder's role though.
Maybe not Capaldi.
to play the Doctor, you have to play eccentric.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's
mean,
definitely what Wonka is.
And
You have to be
Yeah.
able to pull off both badass and funny.
and you have to pull off badass, funny, and if you're going to do it right, to a level, you have to be able to do some form of compassion.
You have to be able to do mannequin and also still pull off the compassionate part of it, yes. And that's the problem with the remake, was that there's not much of any compassion in that weirdo.
No, they just did socially awkward, which
Yeah.
To like 11.
which was not really in the Willy Wonka character makeup.
No.
He was eccentric. He had his moments where he could be cold, but then he had his moments where he could be not cold. He was,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at never point was he totally socially awkward.
Yeah.
And that's where the Johnny Depp version went wrong. And
Yeah.
Johnny Depp, I think, is on record saying that he based his performance on Michael Jackson, which was a definite wrong turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a turn that can quickly turn into weird already and then even creepier if done wrong.
And again, this also might have been because Tim Burton does weird and creepy, but doesn't really do compassionate. I mean, I've only
that
seen
often.
Yeah, you saw him do it with the normal characters in Beetlejuice, the Maitlands.
Mm-hmm.
You saw some of it in Edward Scissorhands with the normal families, but his weird characters don't do compassionate.
His Batman surely never did.
Bits in there, here and there, but not definitely not often.
Remember the fact that his Batman was Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Michael Keaton is actually an actor who can do a lot, to be honest.
I guess that the main thing that stands out in my head in terms of character for those two movies is how Catwoman was handled, which is
she was a bit stilted, not completely terrible, but she was a bit stilted. She had a really weird origin to begin with in that movie.
She's more revenge movie protagonist than anything else.
Yeah.
But Michael Keaton got his role right. When he was Batman, he was Batman. When he was Bruce Wayne, he was Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
He was charming. He was, he was charming, slightly disarming. He had the role right. Under Schumacher, we had Kilmer and we had Clooney. And neither one could play both roles correctly.
No.
They could do one or they could do the other. They could not do both.
Anyways, we've wandered away from Willy Wonka.
We should probably move on to the summary.
I should just wrap up that my final thoughts is that I still highly enjoy Willy Wonka, and I am actually still planning to share this with my nephews, by the way, one of which is the same age as Charlie in this movie. There you go.
I would like to just add on and say that I watch this movie usually once every 5 years. And I have since I was 6 years old.
Yeah, it's been a while for me. I only got the DVD, I want to say, maybe a couple of years ago.
I will just get in a mood and I have to watch this movie. If I see it on television, I have to watch this movie. It's just, I find it to be just a wonderful movie, regardless of what age you are.
Yep. It's an ageless classic at this point. It lasted longer than even the candy bar has twice.
Mm-hmm. Because he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good. Okay. Why don't we go to the summary now before Bill loses his notes?
All right, are you ready, Bill?
Yes, I am.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
A passenger Starliner crashes via materialization into a large private ship because the navigator doesn't seem to give a crap. The TARDIS materializes inside the ship and tries to help separate the ships. In the process, the Doctor and K9 find traces of an extremely addictive narcotic. The Doctor and Romana then meet a zoologist named Trist, who has created a device that stores specimens, kind of similar to the one in Carnival of Monsters, with some differences. Romana looks into it when she's left alone and sees a man hiding in one of the exhibits, which happens to be the one based on the planet where Stott, a member of Trist's crew, died. The navigator from before gets killed by something off screen, and then the Doctor is shot and stunned by someone in a dark room. Romana tells the Doctor that she is concerned Trist's machine is too rudimentary to be stable, especially given the damage sustained to the ship in the crash. She goes to investigate the machine and inexplicably loses consciousness, to be found by Della, Trist's assistant. Meanwhile, Rig, the captain of the ship, complains to Trist and to Demon, the captain of the other ship, who keeps complaining about his schedule, about the Doctor looking for drug smugglers. 2 scenes later, it is very clear that Rig is doped off his face. He has been drugged. The Doctor sees the person who shot him and gives chase. Trist says he thinks that the drugs were smuggled on board by his dead crew member, by Stott and Della, but neither of the Time Lords believe him. Several police arrive on the ship and try to arrest the Doctor for the traces of drugs in his pocket from when he had stashed the evidence there. In order to escape, the Doctor and Romana go into Trist's machine, where they encounter Stott, who has been investigating drug smuggling as well. Meanwhile, the Mandrills, monsters who have been slowly appearing in the plot, they now suddenly become relevant and also numerous enough to mention as they attack the economy class and interfere with the TARDIS crew. The blitzed captain, the Rig, is arrested for dereliction of duty, and after an explosion, the Doctor realizes that the drugs are made out of the monsters. The Doctor and Romana finally manage to separate the two ships. In the meantime, the Doctor ends up on the wrong ship, where he finds computer evidence that Demon has been working with Trist to smuggle drugs. Romana runs into Della and finds out that Trist was the one who told her that Stott was dead. The Doctor returns to the main ship, where they reveal this information to the two officers, helped by the fact that Stott was an undercover agent. After a chase shootout monster attack, Trist and Demon appear to escape to Demon's ship, and the Mandrills are rounded up and put back into the machine. However, because the connection was so unstable, the Doctor was able to connect it to Demon's ship, allowing the police to just walk over and arrest them. The end.
All right.
All right.
You did that in 3 minutes and 21 seconds.
Did pretty good there for such an intricate plot.
Oh yeah.
It's when I was actually reading it as I wrote it, it felt like that felt like it was going quick. I thought I was going to have to skip over some of my notes, but
Oh look,
All
this
right.
is actually not. This actually doesn't feel long, and we're already halfway through. Okay, keep going.
All right, before we go, just hold on a minute. I'm going to lean over here and snort some mandrill.
it helps.
Damn!
It helps that I waited until like late episode 3 before mentioning the mandrills, even though they just kept randomly popping up.
Well, they popped up and they would go, what on earth was that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's just seal it off and let's
Yeah.
figure out what they are in a little bit. We need to
Literally.
actually
They're
get these ships apart.
I can't explain that. Let's seal the wall up again and pretend it's not there. Okay.
All right. So, Bill, let's start with you on what we liked about this serial.
So what I liked about this was that Trist was never mustache twirling evil. He was kind of subtle is not really, but he was kind of understated in that if you're not paying very close attention, it's easy to get to like midway through episode 3 before realizing that he's actually the
there's something
villain
up
of the
there. Yeah.
story. On a rewatch, I realized it pretty early on the way he was manipulating people, but it's never over the top obvious.
Yeah.
Which shows that it was well written, but it's still there if you know where to look.
It's a nice contrast to a lot of Doctor Who villains that are immediately evil for the lulz from episode 1.
Oh yeah, and that's also that also says something about the actor too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thomas.
I guess I just kind of like that, like, as weird as it felt to have in Doctor Who, the fact that the whole plot is just about drug smuggling. Like, it's such an odd thing to, like, I feel like Doctor Who's probably done it possibly even before this, and it probably definitely after, but it's still just
I think
such
it
a
did a
funny
couple
thing to
times
be
before
like,
this.
yeah, but it's just so funny to be like, the whole thing is about, like, you know, you look at the cover of the DVD and the mandrels are on it and stuff, and you're thinking, oh, okay, so it's about the monsters or something. Like, no, they're kind of there, but it's about drug smuggling. It's like, okay.
I gotta share
That's
this
pretty
picture, by the
interesting.
way. I gotta share this picture. I just found Tom Baker in this episode looking like he's living inside a bong.
I kind of think either the producer or someone from the studio was like, "Yeah, we need a monster in this to make it the episode marketable." Something that
They needed to add a sci-fi element to keep it sci-fi. What do we got for that we could throw in for a monster?
Because the dematerializing ship and the machine weren't sci-fi enough.
Yeah,
Well,
but
we gotta have something for them to fight. Otherwise, you have no real villain. You just got a guy slinking around.
They also had to have the vehicle on how they were smuggling the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Matt, how about you?
Overall thing I liked about this, I have to say I liked the Doctor and Romana a lot in this episode. They were working off each other quite a bit whenever they were in the scene together. They even had moments where they get done where just one of them gets done with dialogue with a character, walks around the corner, they're immediately hiding around the corner with each other, looking back over their shoulder and listening, and going, does he think that he's actually fooled us into thinking that the others are the drug runners? Nah. That can't be them. No, not at all. So moving right along. Let's get over here to this next machine that we need to work with again. In fact, there was a couple of there was a couple of times where even Romana finished some of the doctor's sentences too during the episode.
There was a brief bit there where you were on the stream, but we couldn't hear you on Discord. Apparently.
Oh, I was just saying like how the pair of the Doctor and Romana just work really well off each other. How they look over a corner together, and both of them are just like, despite the only one of them being part of a conversation, are just like, do you really believe what he thinks? Nah, there's no way they're the smugglers. Yep, moving along.
But yeah, I think the Doctor and Romana relationship really hit its stride by this point.
So what I liked about it, this was the visual effects, not the costumes or the set design, but the graphical effects actually worked. I mean, they're nothing compared to what we do today, but for 1979, the way they did warp drive, the way they did the little unstable spaces.
Oh yeah, the unstable spaces, the way they did the unstable ship on the outside.
All of that worked very well.
It may not be perfect, especially compared to modern standards, but for the time, they definitely worked.
Yeah.
The effects when they separated the ship, you can really tell that, trippy shit is going on.
Yes. And that's one of the things that Doctor Who you had complained about was a failure in some of the earlier episodes we saw, was the fact that they would fire a laser and you would argue it didn't look like a laser. Well, you didn't have that issue here, did you?
No.
No.
They still had a few of those same canine effects, but they had a few extra ones for canine, and they also had a unique look for the lasers in this one, as well as a gun that actually looked like a gun.
Mm-hmm.
That occasionally helps.
So for me, the visual effects were very successful in this. All right.
So since you end with the visual effects, should I talk about the elephant in the room?
If you're not, I'm going to.
In the
I mean,
next one here,
that's my primary
That's
dislike.
your okay. So I'll go with what I was going to go with, which I feel it less strongly after a rewatch, but still somewhat. And that is that, and I know a lot of Doctor Who episodes are also guilty of this, but I feel like this episode, it felt more guilty of it, partially because of they were so static during these scenes, and that is that so much of the action is people standing on either the bridge or the lab, either having some sort of conversation or argument. Um, I feel like they really could have varied that up either by having people do something else or having some of those scenes take place in some of the other rooms. It felt really repetitive for a while there. And then I think in the last like episode and a half, they started to vary it up a lot more.
I would say they started varying it up more by episode 2, Bill,
Mm.
because then you got that chase through the passenger lounges, which is areas that we'd only really seen in like brief stints before,
Right.
and we started to see more locations of the ship.
And that might be why, because both times I watched the episode, when I finished episode 1, it felt like I had finished 2 episodes. It felt like episode 1 just took so much longer to get through, and I think that might be that episode 1 is that much more monotonous than the others.
Mm. It didn't feel that way to me, but yeah.
Mhm.
to each their own on that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Thomas, what did you dislike?
God, it's between two things. I guess on a rewatch, one thing didn't bother me as much, so I'll go with the other, and that's how the models are shot is a bit wonk in the sense that like it's very like when they try to do the like them colliding thing,
It doesn't
looks
really look
very
like they're colliding. Yeah,
yeah.
it
It's
looks
like
like they're like
what
docked or something.
yeah, it looks like they're both on like a stick and being pulled by two people who are like, oh whoops, what like
Oh, the wire's
not
getting
getting them
tangled.
to
Just a
line up
second. I'm trying
properly.
to unwrap this wire from here.
I can tell you, I originally read the novelization, and this event sounded a lot cooler
Yeah.
in the novelization.
Of course, I think part of it from watching that behind the scenes thing is like the fact that they were made to film on video for budget reasons instead of on film like they wanted to for the model shots might have affected that a bit. Like they might have been able to get away with doing it better if they were doing it on film or like do different. Because I think it was like
Well, I will
they
say
were
that maybe
saying
the
that the
collision and stuff is really wonky, but I'd say that for what they are, considering their age and considering this is made for TV, those models were still not bad for what they were.
oh yeah, I think it was just like a matter of
I mean,
the
mind you,
the people working on them had more of a problem with how they were shot than how they were
mind you,
Maybe.
how the models looked.
to give you a U.S. contemporary of what was going on at about the same time, this was a year after Battlestar Galactica first aired on U.S. televisions.
Yes, and even on U.S. television, that was considered a very expensive show. All those ship models, plus all the Cylons, plus all the effects. Ugh.
Well, yeah, I mean, Battlestar Galactica was supposed to be Star Wars for the TV. But no, I mean, that's the kind of model work that the U.S. was doing. The BBC is usually about 5 years behind
At
America.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so considering its age and considering the time and considering where it was made, it was not bad. It's just that some of the effects they tried pulling off with those models didn't quite mesh.
Yeah. Because I think they're also making the point that, like, if they'd had it on film, they would have had, like, stuff specifically set up to shoot models and that with, whereas using the TV cameras, they had to, like, they couldn't do as dynamic shooting with them. Because it was like, it'd have to be the cameraman doing all the work because they wouldn't have other stuff to mess with the models with or whatever.
Okay, so Matt, how about you? Least favorite?
Least favorite thing about this episode? Man, did those corridors get samey fast.
Yeah, I know. The aforementioned chase scene, where he chases them through basically the same lounge set three
times, yeah.
to the same elevator set.
Well, I think that was on purpose because even one of the people they stand up in one time, then he runs through again, and then they stop him. So I think that was supposed to be a spatial disturbance more than anything else.
It didn't feel like it.
No, it wasn't
No,
a spatial
they're
disturbance,
running-
Bill. It was them running through the different sections full of
'Cause,
people just sitting around
like-
waiting.
Because
Yeah.
one time they ran through, and then the person stood up, and then she was still standing the next time he ran into the room, implying that it was the same lounge, not a separate.
No, I think you were misunderstanding what the sequence of
No,
events were
yeah.
doing.
It was like the guy ran through and and someone stood up after he
After
ran
the guy
through,
ran
and
through,
then
and then the doctor ran
yeah.
in, and then she started complaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 3 different sections.
Yeah. I mean, it probably was the same, like, extras switched around in the seats.
At first, I was like, wow, these look really similar. And then I was like, wait, I think that's the point, because they kept talking about how everything was unstable and everything in the ship.
No,
So
they
maybe
were
that's on purpose.
this section of the ship, Bill, was not affected at all.
Yeah. That was not an unstable zone.
The unstable zone was like 2 decks up.
And was that weird gassy color thing that
There's the weird gassy colored thing, which was around the edge of it, and then there was the basically blocked off weird wobbly bluish vortex where you could almost see the ship through it.
Okay, because at one point they say the ship is filled with unstable zones.
Yes.
There's
Implying
multiple
that the
unstable
whole
zones in
thing
that
is
particular
unstable.
area, yes.
Yeah. It's referring to that there's multiple zones like that, which is why they can't get to the power room.
That's why they have to have issues getting to the power room. It's in those particular floors around that area. It's not affecting where they're running through, where all the people are sitting.
Because that's not where the 2 ships are merged. So those people would probably be dead.
Yeah.
Apparently there's one close to economy class because the Mandrels went through and just started killing people.
Yeah.
But that's not right where they were.
But yeah, as I was about to say, is where the mist comes from, and the other door where you could see the ship from the outside, they were very similar looking in design. The same yellow corridor gets seen like I don't know how many times, as people are just pacing up and down it. Those poor floors must have been worn through.
Well, that to be the corridor, like right off the bridge, right next
Well,
to.
there's I think the corridor I think that same corridor was used for just outside the bridge and just outside the room where the projector is.
Yep, the lab or whatever. Yeah. Trist's quarters, his cabin. That's what it should be. His cabin. There we go.
Oh, that's right. It was like a first class bathroom right attached to it too. That's right. So it's probably his quarters.
Cabin. Yeah.
Oh, I was just referring to that as the lab.
It was likely
There's
his
only,
quarters too, but you never know.
there's only one piece of lab equipment in there, but still.
By the way, Bill, nice eye pointing out the fact that the similarities between the CET machine and the miniscope.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I am of the opinion that the CET machine is like a prototype.
Yeah, but it kind of stood out to me because I noticed that the doctor was not as upset as he was in Carnival of Monsters. Like he was annoyed, but he wasn't as annoyed. And
Oh, he was annoyed, but he was annoyed in that Tom Baker way,
right,
Yeah.
in which he acted all accepting and then shut him down at the end.
right.
Yeah, as opposed to Pertwee, who was just like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It seemed almost like he was more annoyed at like the technological inferiority of it rather than the morality of it.
Oh
And
no.
and I was like, that's interesting.
No, he slapped him with some of the morality too.
True,
Yeah,
a
he
little
did.
bit, because
Yeah.
he was talking about like when he was like preserve them the way that a jam maker preserves a raspberry or whatever.
Yep, that was the
Mhm.
morality slapdown.
Mhm.
The problem is he had more important things to deal with at the moment, like
Right.
drugs and 2 merged spaceships.
Mhm.
Drugs,
And
two
then
merged spaceships, and these weird things that keep occasionally popping up. Where the hell are they anyway?
those
And they-
hadn't popped up yet when by the time he was
Yeah.
doing that SmackDown, but the
Mhm.
merged spaceship and the drugs I think had.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, to a point, this is also the Tom Baker era, not the Pertwee era, where Pertwee would have shouted at him over it.
Mhm.
But yes, he did find it morally reprehensible. It's just right now his priority was Vraxoin, merged
Right.
ships, and everything else was on tertiary levels at this point because
Yeah, he did have a lot on his mind.
Mm-hmm. Like 5 different things all at once.
And then he would have even
get
more
that-
shortly when they started trying to arrest him.
yeah, you get that opinion at one point where he's trying to deal with one thing and somebody would interrupt him with a problem with the other, where it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
juggling too many balls here.
Yeah, but even at one point he just went, wait, what was that? Never mind. Back to what this was again?
All right, so now we're down to my least favorite, or what I disliked about this episode, Serial. So I get to address the elephant in the room.
Yes, we allowed you.
The mandrill costume. Headpiece was nice. The glowing eyes and everything, that all looked nice. Everything below the neck was horrible. It was horrible to look at. It was horrible for them to act in. What the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah.
I think the worst part about it, even beyond like the design and whatnot, is the fact that it looks pretty clear that these things can't be a threat because they don't have enough range of motion to hurt somebody.
Well, that's what I meant by it was so horrible to act in. Yeah.
Right, right. I just wanted to emphasize that bit.
I do still find it interesting that, for whatever reason, the people who would usually be dealing with this, which I think it was the props department or something, or people involved with that stuff, who would normally be tasked with making this, for whatever reason, didn't, and it was given to the costume people.
Who had just lost their head designer.
Mm.
So
Yeah, they had weird foam extensions for arms, which made moving their arms awkward. They had these weird bell-bottomy feet that also made the walking difficult.
Are
And
you
then
sure it wasn't the other way around, Thomas? Are you sure it wasn't
from
that the costume people couldn't do it, and instead it went to the props department?
No, by the sounds of it, the props or whatever guy was saying that like the only involvement they seemed to have was making it so the eyes glowed. Like that was the only thing that they basically did from what this person was saying. Or like maybe they had involvement on the head, which is why it's probably the best bit. But like that was it. Like
yeah, if they had
body
involvement in the
part,
eyes, they probably had to be
nothing
involved with the head and altogether.
Yeah, but like they didn't have anything to do with the main body of it.
And
Weird.
then the weird tight fit of these outfits. You can tell in certain angles if you're watching closely as to what they're doing. That it looks like they're trying to avoid ripping the dang thing just by moving in it. There's times
Yeah.
where the fabric underneath those scales shows right through like it's nothing.
Yeah, and I think even one of the props guys even points out that it's fine to a point. You know what? To use a modern equivalent, it's like the alien sort of creatures in Orphan 55, where they work better in low lighting, not seeing much, but then when you see them in quite
Yeah.
bright lighting out in the open, it's like this doesn't work as well.
This would have been these creatures would have actually probably worked good, if not perfectly, in like aliens-esque lighting, not
Yeah.
full-on
Like
Doctor
again,
Who set lighting.
when
Well,
they're in the projection thing, it works because the jungle is
Mm-hmm.
very dark.
The jungle is dark
Right.
enough that you can't see all the details, so it actually hides a lot of the flaws.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also it's like there's a green costume, so it kind of blends in a little bit with the forest, whereas against the metal bulkheads and shit, it really stands out, and you
Hmm.
can see every detail.
And you can see what a crappy job it is. And yeah, that's the job of a director to go, okay, no, this costume's not going to work. We need to add some shadow effects. And
What
he
we need to
didn't.
do is we need to have like a close up of these things. Let's just remove one of the claws from the costume really quick, and we can have it like smacking up towards the light in the ceiling, and then we'll just fake that they're knocking out some of the lights, and we
Or
just
something.
add in the reason that they hate bright light. They're nocturnal creatures
Yeah,
or something.
like the first time we really see a mandrel is when they remove that plate.
Yeah, when we remove
They
the
could
plate
have
and you
had
just see it burst through the wall for a moment.
they could have had Canine cut through a power line so that the lights went dim,
Mm-hmm.
so that you only saw so much, and the rest of it was in shadow.
Rest of it is the shadow. Maybe have a little bit of backlighting with steam and just have it pop out of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been perfect.
Yeah, and they didn't think about that because they didn't have a proper director.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That was also an issue, I assume, too. Some of this could have been worked around
Yeah,
if they
'cause,
had proper head for this particular episode.
yeah.
I
What I
mean,
can tell, this director was apparently very old when this was happening, so it's like he's used to way older kind of filming shit and was only used to drama. So
Well, it
Yeah, if
seems
he was only a drama director, then he probably didn't really understand how to shoot something like this.
it seems a lot of it was directed by the producer, who probably was busy, juggling everything else to do with the show and the rest of the season at the same time.
the thing is, Alan Bromley was the director that quit.
Hmm.
He was not. This was not his first Doctor Who. This
Oh.
same director did the Time Warrior back
Oh.
in the Pertwee era.
He would have actually been a good choice, but apparently he was hard to work with.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it's definitely because it's funny because pretty much every time they bring him up in the behind the scenes thing, it's like any advice he was given, he just shot down.
Yeah.
So it's
And considering this is at the height of Tom Baker as would-be showrunner / star, I can see how that would lead to butting of heads.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this was everyone. This wasn't even just Tom Baker.
Yeah, it wasn't just
anyone
Tom,
who
but
was
Tom
giving it-
probably made it worse to the point
Oh,
that
yeah,
this
yeah.
guy did quit.
Yeah.
Um,
And apparently he wanted, when they were doing rehearsals, he wanted to do front to back, start to finish, instead of just let's rehearse this bit and then go back to this bit and whatever. Which everyone was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
okay, so the director was 64
Oof.
when he was doing this. So he was like a year from retirement.
Practically. Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel just for someone to get in there. They're actually legitimately lucky this episode didn't end up worse. I think the script probably saved it to some degree.
And you're right, it does say midway through production, so it could have been the fact that it wound up being 3 and 4 done by Gran Williams, which is why there's some improvement, but was too late to fix some things.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite scene.
So I'll say my favorite scene is the one at pretty much the end, the resolution where they're like, "Oh, there's no way we can catch up with them now." It's like, actually, I'm projecting them onto the wall right now because on one hand, you don't see it coming. On the other hand, it makes sense with everything they've been saying throughout the episode, and it's a funny juxtaposition, and it's a great way to conclude it where they're just like, what is this? Why are we on the wall being watched by people? And I don't know what that seems like from their experience, but it's just kind of both surreal and comedic and fitting for the episode.
It is because, they had used the CET machine to take out whole sections of the thing. The doctor used the CET machine to take out the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Your bridge is now on my crystal. And because this machine is so unstable, just walk in and take them, guys. All right, Thomas.
Come to think of it, script editor Douglas Adams might have had something to do with some of that.
Possibly.
Probably. Oh. God. I'll go with that instead. When they after they've pretty much after the scene Bill's talking about, when Trist is pleading with the doctor to be like, you can explain to them, right? I just needed this so I could continue doing more research. And the doctor is like, if he was looking at him, he'd be staring daggers, but he's not, and he's basically just has the biggest fuck off or I will fuck off or I will knock you out energy. He's just telling him to go away, and it's just if I turn around to look at you, I'm going to slap you across the face. Get away from me.
All right.
This is a very Fourth Doctor thing.
Matt.
I'm trying to think, which one do I want to go with? There's a lot of really good stuff here. Actually, one of the ones I still remember, and I think I've only watched this episode once before. One of the bits I remember is that shot where the doctor is running at the camera as they're pulling the ships apart, and you just get this really crazy hazy thing. Like they did a trail kind of bit before, but this one's really interesting as he's running at camera, and you just see him slowly face off into this blue effect, and then just disappears. That was actually a rather smart move, and actually really well done for all their usual visual effects.
Yeah, that was nicely done. So my favorite scene is the doctor using the oldest trick in the book when they're trying to arrest him. It is literally the oldest trick in the book. Sure, no problem. But what's that?
Did literally a Marty McFly and ran out of the room.
Yep.
And the funny thing about that is, this being the Fourth Doctor, I really thought it was like, oh yeah, can I say something? Oh yeah, what do you need to say? Romana, run, or something like that. But he didn't. It wasn't even that. It was the full redirect.
Yeah, it was the full. That is the oldest trick in the playbook.
Yeah,
and these two idiots just fall for it.
The only way it could be even more silly and more over the top is if he literally pointed and shouted, "Look, I'm distracting you," and then ran.
Yeah. The funny thing that I caught on the rewatch was even just that him saying under his breath, "We've got 2 seconds," as he's as they're about to start running.
Yeah, it's pretty much the look, a demonic duck or something. Yeah.
Wait, what?
That's great. All right, least favorite scene.
So I think I'm gonna go with this is early on, when the doctor goes off into whatever I was never quite sure the name of what the room he was working in, the power room or whatever room he was
Power
working in to separate the ships. So he's actually doing things to separate the ships, and Demon, who wants him to hurry up and separate the ships, follows Romana into Trist's room and just stands there talking about how he wishes somebody would be doing something to separate the ships. And I was like, you're in the room where all the people who aren't involved in that went. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Fool.
Yeah, he's just a whiny bitch anyway.
And I think
And
the
a liar,
idea,
it turns out.
I think looking at it in retrospect that he went in there to have an excuse to like collect whatever the drug shipment from Trist or something, but I don't know. It's like, especially in the moment, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, Thomas, your least favorite.
I talked about it before stream and was almost going to give it a pass, but I can't really think of anything else, so I'm going to go with it anyway. At least not off the top of my head. I can't think of anything else. So the scene of like K9 shoots the mandrill, it's on the ground, and it's like, oh, don't worry, it's dead. And you can visually see the fact that the guy is still breathing.
Yep.
Whoever's in the suit is still breathing enough that it's actually making the suit go up and down. It's like, so it's not dead. But then it turns out to be like, oh, it's still alive. But even then, it's like, we are supposed to think it's dead until a little later. So breathing so obviously is like, maybe not show it in shot.
Maybe take a quick break and let the guy in the outfit like catch his breath so he can hide it better.
Or even have like an empty costume that's got stuff in it.
Or just stuff the costume.
Yeah.
I'm glad you gave the context of K9 shooting it, because I was a little confused when we talked about it before, because I was referencing the one that blew himself up, and then there's just like an empty suit sitting there, and then
there wasn't an empty suit sitting there. That was like they put like a fake shell of one with a little bit of fur on it, and the head start to crack in on itself.
Yeah, from what I can tell, they took a spare one from the costume department and modified it so they could.
Yeah, when we were talking before, I thought you were saying that you could see breathing during that scene, and I was like,
oh, no.
I did not see breathing.
That was not technically an empty suit. That was slightly remade up thing, just for that shot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one of those things where you can pay attention to movies and there'll be an extra who's supposed to be pretending to be dead and they'll like look up or something and it possibly made it into the movie.
Or like the one guy that the first guy that gets his neck snapped by Darth Vader and has to put up his hand so his face doesn't smash into the wall.
I also recently found out from listening to a podcast or rewatching a TV show. Apparently, when actors rewatch or watch movies and shows, they notice they pay attention to all the actors that are accidentally looking at the camera.
All right. So, Matt, your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene, as nice as the idea and the intent was, the herding of the monsters back into Eden was the silliest go-go dance routine I've ever seen with laser beams.
Okay. That was my least favorite scene too, but I think I might have a different reason from you.
It's just super ridiculous, and it really does show a lot of flaws in the suit. You go ahead.
My problem is, this is literally 2 scenes away from my guns. They do nothing. And then they're supposed to be
do nothing.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different person's guns.
No, they're the same guns.
They're the same guns that they've been using all the episode. Blah.
Haven't RPGs taught you that it doesn't matter what weapon you use? It matters how many levels of how many skill points in using that weapon you have.
They've been using them perfectly fine the rest of the episode.
Yeah, they've been rolling decent. They've been hitting the target. It's just they can't roll enough damage.
Yeah, all of a sudden they can't roll enough damage, and then literally the doctor has to come in and crit a tame animal.
I will give.
Demon doesn't have the feat of stunning mandrills that everybody else has.
I will give the fact that Stott's gun may have enough power to do that, but all of the freaking like security officers on the Empress have thus far been trying to attack these guys, and they've been doing jack shit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's Stotts and a deck guy, both of them using their guns to herd these things down. I'm like,
they all leveled up.
Uh-huh.
Bill, do I need to slap you with a D20?
No, I'm just taking the piss.
That was my issue with it. After spending so much time stressing the ineffectiveness of their guns, to have that be part of the solution.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it starts to turn on them. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm. It turns around, starts to attack, and they just shoot it until it goes back into place, like a little docile.
Yeah, and again, their weapons are about to completely fail on them, and then the doctor has to literally step in and crit a tame animal and have them follow him right back into the door.
Yes. Doing basically the Pied Piper of Hamlin.
I'm surprised he didn't try a Venusian lullaby.
He might have been. You don't know what he was blowing on that whistle.
No, he was just doing dog whistle, and apparently they react very well to dog whistle.
As far as you know, he was frickin' whistling Angel of the Morning.
That is a callback.
It was worth it. All right, so between Matt and R, that's our least favorite scene. Let's go to final thoughts. Bill?
For some reason, I forgot that we had a final thoughts section. So yeah, I think what do I think about this episode?
Oh no, Bill. What do you think, Bill?
It's definitely above a 3. It's an interesting episode. I feel like the monsters were really tacked on and probably not very needed. I mean, they make sense in the story, but I think the story would have made just as much sense if they were written out. But I guess, it's Doctor Who. They wanted a monster, and it's not a huge negative. But yeah, I like the way they handled the investigation, the way that it wasn't a really obvious culprit. Even in the end, he kind of professed himself to be a reluctant crime lord rather than somebody who was, out to become a billionaire and whatever. They by no means paint him as a good guy. He tried to kill his own crew member and everything else. But they still do it in a much more believable way than a lot of children's media would do, and I appreciate that. And it made a better story for it.
But you feel the plot would have been better, would have been just as good if the source of the Vrax had been like space chihuahuas, huh?
I mean, or if it was just an actual like drug that was in there and not made from melting bad costumes.
I'm just saying. I mean, for the whole trick to work, they needed to have the source be able to be beamed over through the CET machine. So it had to be.
I mean, they beamed over trees and shit too. So, so yeah, I think it was a good story overall. Definitely not perfect by any means, but yeah, pretty positive. And I guess that's it.
All right, Thomas.
I think it's just one of those things where I liked it more on a rewatch, and probably because I was just paying more attention. But it's one of those things where it is funny. It's still funny to me that this was a Doctor Who plot that just boiled down to we've got to catch the drug smugglers. But, and going with the frog alien is drugs is like, okay. And not even like, plant-based. It's like, no, this is like, as much as they do like put it in someone's drink, it's like, this is, you expect someone, like if the captain had been there when the mandrill melts, that he would have just been like on the ground snorting and all. Which never would have made it into an episode of Doctor Who, but still.
I left his what's the word I'm looking for? Damn it. When he came down from the high and he needed more, I left that out of my summary because it didn't go very far, but yeah.
Soylent V is mandrill.
Withdrawal, that's what I was trying to say. God damn it, Bill.
Yeah.
And man, he 180'd fast.
Mm-hmm. So did the Navigator.
That's a pretty quick plunge there.
Mm-hmm.
From to I need more.
Yeah.
There's no I'm coming down. It just drops.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely worth watching. There are like bits here and there that are probably a bit iffy, and like the costumes of the mandrills are iffy and stuff like that. But while it's not great by any stretch, I would still say this is worth checking out.
All right, Matt.
I figure that the plot is perfectly fine for as far as I'm concerned. The sets are okay, but they do get a little repetitive. Most of the costuming is pretty solid as well, and the visual effects are actually pretty good, all considering any issues that they were having and considering the age and the level of money they could throw at them. The number one issue I definitely have is that the monster costumes were not efficient for what they were trying to do. It literally counteracted them, and they needed to do something else to those sets or something just to help make them workable. That being said, the rest of it, including the acting and the direction, for the most part, is perfectly fine by me, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Otherwise, so I figured this is going to be a pretty good episode either way.
All right, my thoughts is, this is one of my favorite Doctor Who books to read when I was a kid. And the actual televised version is a little more disappointing. There's obviously some flaws in production that are obvious. Some directing that should have been done differently, some costumes that should have been done differently. But other than that, the people involved put on a spectacular performance.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the visual effects are quite impressive. So, oh God, where am I going to put this? I need to think about it. So
well,
I'll let you.
You got three other people to go first, so.
Yep. So, Bill, you are first.
A side note that would have fit into my final thoughts is that 2 years before this, the movie industry taught us that a drug smuggler could save the world with a heart of gold. And then this is coming out and saying "fuck Han Solo." So
I don't think it's necessarily saying that, but
well, yes, Doctor Who. There's many reasons Doctor Who wants to raise a middle finger to Star Wars.
So I've been
canceling that Scratchman movie.
I've been sitting here for the past 2 hours trying to decide if this is good enough to make the bump from 3.5 to a 4, and I think I'm going to say it just edges enough over the line to for my score to be a 4.0.
All right, Thomas.
I agree with Bill on that. I've basically just been sitting on a 4 and whether it would go up or down, and yeah, for me it's a 4.
Okay, Matt.
Well, apparently I've turned it to Tim. This is a 4.5 easily for me. A few corrections, this could have been a 5.
And I have to agree with the majority and give it a 4. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed in it because I had read the novelization first and things sounded a lot more awesome in the novel.
So the thing that's funny to
So-
me is that the scores are the exact opposite of last week. So because Matt was so with 4 and we were all 4.5 this week, we're all 4 and he's 4.5.
Oh,
Which again,
last
it
week
does
was barely
right
the skin of
Matt
its
wrong.
teeth. 4. I'm generally annoyed at where current who is at. I really hope they up their game.
So this makes us right, Matt wrong, because the average is now a 4.1, which will put this at number 154. It
Dig
is
it,
on par.
Nancy's.
Bite me. It's on par with Oxygen, The Daemons, The Pilot, The Space Museum, Can You Hear Me? It Takes You Away, Closing Time, The Girl Who Died, Fires of Pompeii, Death to the Daleks, State of the K, Under the Lake, Before the Flood, Mummy on the Orient Express, Mask of Mandragora, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, and that's all, thank God. It is better than Spyfall, Rose, Planet of the Spiders, Light at the End, Castrovalva, The Invisible Enemy, etc., and is not as good as Gridlock, The Time Meddler, Bad Wolf, Legopolis, Inferno, The Mind Robber, The Shakespeare Code, etc. Once again, that is 153 out of 372 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about The Nightmare of Eden.
All right. So those listening, please let us know in the comments. What do you think about the episode? How would you rate it? And what did you like and dislike? Don't forget to like or dislike the video if you feel that way, and to subscribe to keep getting our exports on YouTube, or follow us on Twitch to get our new streams on Wednesday nights.
All right, next time we move forward to season 18 and the age of John Nathan Turner. Say goodbye to the randomizer and hello to mandatory costumes. It's The Leisure Hive, written by David Fisher and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Lala Ward as Romana, and John Leeson returning as the voice of K9. See you next week.
Talk about being trapped on the same set. Good night.